So Bodies is the newest film from A24, and it follows a group of friends who go to a remote family mansion in order to party and get wasted while there's a hurricane outside. While in this mansion, they decide to play a game called Bodies, which is basically an identity game similar to Mafia or Werewolf. Cards are dealt, someone becomes the murderer, and the murderer must kill other players while the other players try to figure out who the murderer is. So yes, Bodies is very much a whodunit. That said, this is not your typical whodunit, this is an A24 whodunit. As we all know, A24 films don't usually play by the rules of conventional cinema, they are unique. And one of the things that make A24 films so unique is the fact that they blend many different genres. Bodies is not the exception. Yes, it is a whodunit, but it is also a horror thriller and a comedic satire. And when it comes to my general thoughts about Bodies, I thought this film was amazing. I came in with very low expectations. I'm not gonna lie, the trailers didn't impress me that much. That said, I had a blast and I thought this film was really freaking amazing. And yes, Bodies really surprised me. And the reason why it surprised me so much is because it doesn't really focus on what I consider to be the two most important elements of film. And yet I still love it. If you ask me, Juan, what are the two most important elements of cinema? I would subjectively say story and characters. Yes, all other elements are extremely important. The visuals, the editing, the music, the acting, all of those elements are extremely important. That said, if you ask me what are the two most important elements of any movie, I would say story and characters. Now, this film doesn't focus on them. This film isn't focused on story or isn't focused on characters. And don't get me wrong, there are some very solid twists and story progressions throughout the film, and there are some great moments of character interactions throughout the whole movie. That said, this film isn't focused in its story or its characters. Instead, it is focused on its atmosphere. This film is focused in putting you in the shoes of these characters and allowing you to experience this insane, f***ed-up night along with them. This film's main concern is to get you to experience the fear and mistrust that the characters are feeling. The best way I could put it is this film really reminded me of other A24 movies such as Climax and Good Time. You know, all three of these films happen in a very short, self-contained period of time. They all take place in the time span of one night. All three of these films are more concerned with creating atmosphere than with developing a story or exploring characters. And all three of these movies are extremely hectic. You feel like you need to take a breather after watching them. So yes, Bodies is a very atmospheric and immersive film. And one of the reasons why it succeeds at being immersive and atmospheric are, without a doubt, its visuals. This whole film takes place in a single, very dark location. And in different hands, the visuals of this movie could have become stale and repetitive really quick. That said, cinematographer Jasper Wolf and director Halina Reijn use shadows and colors in such a way that the visuals are always interesting and fresh. Now, there are other things that I have to mention when it comes to things that I really freaking love about Bodies, and one of those things is the satiric nature of this movie. I love how this film uses humor and exaggeration to expose and criticize human behaviors that are very relevant today. These are behaviors that are relevant to Gen Zers, the generation that I belong to. The way I see it, this film criticizes the fact that even though our generation counts with more tools than ever to create relationships, we still use this to keep us apart. You know, we have phones, social media, the internet, dating apps, and much more. That said, even though we count with all of these tools, we still struggle to create meaningful connections or relationships that aren't simply superficial, hypercritical, or fake. And the fact that the film criticizes this is evident throughout the whole movie. At the beginning, everything is great, you know, all the characters are friends and they are having a lot of fun. That said, as the movie progresses and tension begins to build up, we quickly see just how flimsy and superficial these friendships truly are. You know, throughout the film, the unique tools that are meant to bring us together are sources of conflicts for the characters of this movie and end up dividing them instead of bringing them together. Now, another element that I have to mention is the comedy. And when it comes to the comedy of this film, I thought it was great and it really made me laugh. That said, most of the jokes in this film do rely on the current Gen Z humor. Therefore, I don't really know how well some of these jokes are gonna age. To me right now, these jokes are hilarious because I am a Gen Zer who is constantly exposed to Gen Z humor. That said, I don't know how well the comedy of this film is gonna hold up when those watching these movies are not Gen Zers who know about Gen Z humor of the early 2020s. And the other element that I would like to discuss is the ending. When it comes to the ending, I loved it. I thought it wrapped up everything perfectly, and I thought it was a very satisfying and very good ending. That said, I can definitely see how this ending could be controversial, and to some, even disappointing. I genuinely believe that the ending of this movie will either make or break your experience watching it. For me, it worked, but I don't know. It maybe won't for you. So in conclusion, Bodies, Bodies, Bodies is an extremely atmospheric film that puts you in the shoes of its characters and forces you to experience this extremely fucked up night along with them. It is a clever satire that manages to use humor to comment on the superficiality and phoniness of modern relationships, and it is a film that will particularly connect with Gen Zers. If I were to give it a score in between 1 to 10, I would give it a 9 out of 10, which means I thought it was amazing.